see what we got going on here. Go ahead and flip this camera. This is Sports for Real on site with the Jags and the Titans. Hanging outside the stadium trying to get a little action from the fans here. This is the last home game for Jacksonville. They got a game next week. But what's at stake? You have 2, 3, and 12 teams who are jockeying position for next year's draft. And right now, the Jaguars, they beat the Titans the first time, and they're up 13-3 just coming out of halftime now. The Jaguars win today, then they pretty much puts them behind Tennessee and the Giants, so they're probably looking at the third draft selection. But I'm just going to hang out here for about 30 minutes or so. Maybe I can catch me a fan or two. Meanwhile, I am going to flip the camera just to show you the minimal scene that we have right here. It's kind of strange. A lot of these fans, they come to these games and they like to leave early. And I don't understand why somebody would want to come to the games to pay all this money just to leave early. But one thing about days like today, when you have your home team that's not winning, the fans that are here today, they're probably going to be truer than the ones that come out when the weather is nice and perky. Here's dreary. Kind of reminds you of like New York weather. Always raining and damp and gray. That's what we have down here in Jacksonville. But at least for the home side, they're all up 13-3. And they haven't had much to cheer about, even though most of the games they lost for about one score. Play here and play there. Hell, the Jaguars could be 12-3 as opposed to 3-12. But that's just the way sports go. And the downside of that is got to be some major changes that must take place. And in this case right here, it's been speculated that the head coach is going to be ousted. Up until a couple weeks ago, they all talked about Bill Belichick. Everybody wanted Bill Belichick to be the coach here in Jacksonville. But the North Carolina Tar Heels, they had something to say about that. They swooped in and they signed Belichick to a 5-year deal, even though he has a sweet termination clause if he wants to use it. I don't think he's going to use it because it sets his son up as the coach in waiting. And because North Carolina was able to swoop in, that kind of crushed the dreams of a lot of Jaguar fans, and maybe they can get the Super Bowl winning coach down here in Jacksonville. Now granted, I don't want to put it on the fact that Tom Brady was the quarterback when they won all those championships in New England, but Belichick, he hasn't done a whole lot besides Tom Brady. When he was in Cleveland, he didn't do very much. His claim to fame is primarily it's winning the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Other than that, he hasn't done much as a head coach. Now, he did win a couple Super Bowls with the Giants, with Parcells. So wherever he's gone, he's won. So it wouldn't have been a bad idea to bring a guy in like that. But at his age, you know that he's not going to be here for very long. So it was probably best that something did happen to take Belichick out of the equation for the Jaguars. So now they're talking about Ben Johnson from Detroit, and probably some other young hotshot coach is what they're going to end up with. And change is necessary, but Belichick's not going to be it, and I don't think Ben Johnson is going to come here. He's going to go somewhere else. He may go to Chicago. Who knows? But a lot remains to be seen. BRE Radio saying, "Hey, love from San Francisco. How you doing, Frisco? Too bad you don't have a good football team this year. Maybe you come back next year." It's interesting to me that with Brock Purdy, he's taking the brunt of the criticism now. Is he worth it? Should he be signed to a good contract? Now, when the man was winning and everybody was healthy, then he didn't have much complaint about it. I appreciate that, Bill, yourself. But now, you know, I'm laughing too. But these fans are fickle, man. It's like in Jacksonville down here. They might have spent $300-400 to get to this game. There's not a whole lot of people in the stadium, but at the same time, the ones that about 25% of them, they start to run out of the stadium once the game is halfway through. I guess they're trying to beat the traffic, but what traffic? This place here is actually very easy to get around. There's a lot of different exit exit routes that you can get out of here without getting stuck in traffic. Now, the Florida-Georgia game, is completely different. Now, you get stuck down here when the game is over, and you're going to be stuck here for a while. But you don't have that kind of hysteria right now with a 3-12 team. But Jacksonville, some funny fans, man. So when you look around the league, it's the same thing. Nobody's really loyal anymore. The players aren't loyal, so hell, why should the fans be loyal? So when a team wins a championship, everybody's that's their team. Now, just to give you an example, I do rideshare. I tell you guys this all the time, that I pick up people who have all kind of interesting stories. And this guy here, I picked him up and he had a Bulls hat on. Man, the first thing I said, man, I hadn't seen a Bulls hat in 20 years. You know those Michael Jordan days when they were winning all those championships? You couldn't go down the block nowhere in America with everybody got a Bulls jersey on or a Bulls tag on, and they tell you they've been a Bulls fan for 30 years. But as soon as Jordan left and they started losing, man, I couldn't find a Bulls tag. So when that guy came up yesterday with a Bulls hat on, I about fell out. That was funny to me. And it's the same thing with all these sports teams. New England fans, they were rampant down here in Jacksonville. And I work in the school system. Every kid, they got a Brady jersey on. They Patriots down. Patriots can't be beat. Now the Patriots are losing, but they got beat yesterday 40-7. Now you can't find a Patriots fan. And one thing I will say about NFL teams, there's a lot of loyal fan bases out there, so I have to give credit to the Cowboy fans. That is one thing that they are loyal to. They are loyal to the Cowboys. And I don't know why. The only time I like the Cowboys is when they're losing, because I want to cheer them on so I can get them to the point where we're going to whip them again, you know. I don't want to be the bad Cowboys team. I want to be the good Cowboys team. That way we won't have no excuse. But the best thing that the Cowboys can do is provide me gear to change the oil in my car. You know, I go buy a brand new Cowboy shirt, put it on, go cut the grass, change the oil, climb in the basement, whatever you want to do. Must it up. That's what Cowboys gear is for. But then I go home and I look at that Steelers shirt hanging up against the closet and say, man, that's beautiful. That's just fit for hanging. You don't change the oil or cut the grass like you do with the Cowboy stuff. That only makes sense to me. So Maddie says, are you at the Super? No, I'm not at the Superdome. I guess that's what you're trying to say. I am in Jacksonville, outside Everbank Stadium. See the sign over there? Right now you got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville had a 13-3 lead at halftime, but since I started talking, they had scored a touchdown. So the score is 13-10, and it should be about 8 or 9 minutes left in the third quarter. So two good teams oftentimes put up great results, and that's basically what you're going to see here today. Speaking of that, the SEC is on the clock. They talked all that trash about teams that didn't deserve to be in the college football playoff, and then the one team that they had three teams. Georgia had a bye, Texas got a good draw with Clemson, and then actually had a scare from Clemson, and now you have Tennessee getting destroyed by Ohio State. Ever since that beatdown in Columbus, they hadn't heard a lot coming out of the SEC about how great they are and how superior they are. And for their sake, I hope at least one of their teams make it to the semifinals so they can say we're still the best. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen, and a lot depends on how well Georgia quarterbacks play. If they might get knocked off by Notre Dame on Wednesday, very possible. Is it likely? Probably not, because if it goes down to the fourth quarter, Georgia's got the biggest heart in college football, so they're going to be hard to beat. So if you're going to beat Georgia, you got to take them out at the knees before you even get to the fourth quarter, because if not, they're probably going to come back and take it from you. They just have that kind of heart. But Notre Dame, the way they're playing, it's possible that they could beat Georgia. And Texas, they got Arizona State. And I don't know how serious they're going to take Arizona State, but Arizona State is certainly capable of beating Texas. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But I started off talking about Bill Belichick, and he's taking the North Carolina gig. But North Carolina's in the news last night because you had 2 North Carolina schools playing the bowl game that turned into a brawl in the end. We have East Carolina, which is in Greenville, taking on North Carolina State from Raleigh. And those schools are about 85 miles apart. And of course, you know, those players, a lot of them know each other and they don't get along. And one guy he said something after making a big play against NC State, and they didn't take it very well. And one thing led to another. Next thing you know, you got players spilling all on the field from everywhere. But what really made the news is when the referee, he got hit in the eye because one of the ECU players came up behind the State player and pushed him in the back of the head, and that caused him to hit an official and blood flying everywhere. So that's not a good look for East Carolina. But that's one thing when you get these bowl games, anybody can play against each other, and a lot of times they try to get schools that are close apart or have some kind of connection. That way they can draw a decent crowd. Because this is the site of the Gator Bowl, and I've been to the Gator Bowl a couple of times. Last year they had Clemson and Kentucky, and that wasn't a great crowd per se. But it would have been a lot more if you had somebody that was a lot closer in proximity, so like a Florida school and maybe a Georgia school, neighbors, or 2 in-state schools. That would have drawn a bigger crowd than what you had last year with Clemson and Kentucky. This year they have Ole Miss. They usually travel pretty well. They're playing Duke. They might get a better crowd than they had last year, depending on the weather. But generally, there's no guarantee that these bowl games are going to make money. The only thing that gives them a real good chance of making money is if they have TV coverage, and most games do. And that is the lifeline to most of these bowls. Otherwise, most of them don't make any money. And you have to question, what is the real reason for these bowl games? Is it because of the TV? Is it because the NCAA has a certain quota that has to be met? A lot of questions need to be asked, especially now that you have the playoffs. What is the need for the bowl system? There's really no need, I don't think, because what you have here is just extra games just to generate extra money. It doesn't really help the schools a whole lot. Yeah, you get 15 extra practices, but with the players moving around nowadays, is that even beneficial? So there's a lot of questions that has to be asked. But if you want to try to compare that to something, this is almost like these NFL teams that don't make the playoffs. Should they have a bowl system for teams that just barely miss the playoffs? Should they get a system together where they go play against teams that just barely miss, like themselves? Those are interesting questions that could be asked. This guy here gonna run me over in a bad spot right here. I am in a bad spot right here. One thing about these NFL games, they have these it's a lot of economies taking place down here. This guy right here, he probably makes, on a decent crowd, he's going to make $700, $800, $900 a game just picking up people, taking them to their cars. You have guys over there with the food truck. He's making money. They have guys like me who have their own little connections where they get out there with the media, and it pays off for people like myself. So probably another 30 minutes, you're going to see guys selling T-shirts on the sidewalk. So a lot of good ways to make some money at these games, man. You just have to get creative, and generally in a spot like right here, I'm not close enough to the stadium where I'm a bother to them. But if I get up there, say around those white barricades up there, then they might try to chase me off. But generally, they're not going to bother me standing out here. So once I finish doing this right here, I'm going to do my little talk with Fango Media, where I chat with the fans and get their comments as they come out of the stadium. Hopefully the weather will hold off. Right now it's got a little moisture in the air, but rain has passed through and it's kind of windy. I'm hoping that it doesn't get any worse than this. But this is like the 7th home game, and for the most part the weather's been bad every time. Started out raining, it's going to end with a rain, and hopefully I can get some good commentary as the fans come out of the stadium. But that fight last night with NC State or ECU, that was ugly. And that's going to cause the NCAA to sit down and think about some of these bowl matchups that they have, and the number of bowls. I mean, they're good for local economies, for people that get a decent crowd. But like I said, there's no guarantee you're going to get a good crowd at these bowl games. So the interest right now is on the NFL and the teams trying to jockey for the playoffs. And the other part of that is the college football playoffs. And the better bowl games, they got a couple good games on today. There's going to be some more tomorrow. And as they go on, they get a little bit better with the competition-wise. And I think that is what people are focused on, more so than these sideline games. But saw last night, Colorado got whipped by BYU. The fact that they lost to BYU is not a surprise to me, but I didn't think they would whip them like that. And you kind of get a lot of blowouts in bowl games, so it's not unusual that team would get blown out. But Colorado, they come in with all the hype and the fanfare and the Heisman Trophy and all of that, expecting to get a couple high draft choices. But BYU wasn't impressed. And they say Sanders is supposed to be one of the top quarterback coming out, but you don't seem to have a whole lot of escapability when they put a little pressure on him. And when they get to him and keep on getting to him, his numbers, they tend to go down. And that is not a good thing for Sanders. And he had some Giant shoes on the other day, so I think he has aspirations for going to play with the New York Giants, which wouldn't be a bad spot if you can run the football and throw some timely passes. Hey, he might do well in New York. By no means is the way his college career ended is an indication of how his pro career is going to go. Look at Lamar Jackson. He come into the Gator Bowl this last year. I forget who they played, but he ended up throwing a couple interceptions there. He's done pretty well in the NFL. As harsh as I seem to be on him, I only tell the truth, but you can't deny that he's had a decent career up to this point. And you just need to learn him to throw the football and put it in there when it counts the most. That's the only drawback I got on him. And until he does that, I'm going to keep calling him out. But he threw a couple of interceptions his last game in college, and it didn't look so good for him. And again, that's not an indication of how your pro career is going to go. So maybe Shedeur Sanders can find a way to get himself off the mat, get drafted high, and then go from there. He'll do fine for himself. But for the most part, these bowl games, they don't really have anything to. It's just something for the fans to take a vacation on, and that's what they were started on, and that seemed to be the way that they're going to now that you have the college football playoffs. It's just an extra game to go have some fun with your teammates and hopefully get a victory and your fans get a chance to get away from wherever they are. So that's just my thought on it. But I'm out here in Jaguars Stadium, Tennessee and Jacksonville. Last score I heard was 13-10 Jacksonville. It's going to come down to the last minute. And what they're fighting for really is draft position. Right now, Jacksonville is in the third position following Tennessee and the New York Giants. And they're in third place because they beat Tennessee the first time. If they beat them this time, then they won't be able to do any better than 3. But right now, it looks like the Giants going to end up with that top spot. But the Giants are so unfortunate. They're probably going to end up winning the game and knock themselves out of that number 1 spot. So don't be surprised if the Giants don't get that top draft choice. But I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot. It's starting to smell like Travis Hunter is going to end up down here in Jacksonville. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know, they're doing some kind of race inside the stadium. I'm actually in a good spot where I can pretty much tell what's going on and maybe catch a video replay. I got a better view on the other side, but I'm not going all the way down there. But I'm getting ready to set up for Fango Media. We talk to fans as they come out of the stadium. I had to get set up early around here because the fans, for whatever reason in Jacksonville, they like to leave midway through the third quarter, and then whoever's left are the true fans, which ain't a whole lot on a day like today. So I'm going to get set up, and I'm going to talk to the fans, and once I get through chatting with the fans, I'm going to come back on live and see if I can catch a couple fans on my little site to see how things go. So it's just been Sports for Real. I just want to come in, chime in, say a few things about what's going on down here at Everbank Stadium. Kind of a northeastern kind of day, muggy, not muggy as much heat-wise, but cloudy and rainy and gray and everything else. You think you're in New Jersey or Philadelphia somewhere without the cold. But that's what it looks like down here. So anyway, I'm going to step out and I'll be back later, talk to some fans live. And until then, this is Sports for Real. I may pan around for a second or two just to show you what's not going on down here.
Where's Uber pickup at?
Uber pickup? You'd be better off going on the west side of the stadium, and there's a crossroad that runs right behind the baseball stadium. So you can go around this way. Well, really, Uber is wherever you can get an Uber ride. Now, the strange thing about Uber is here, they turn the streets one way away from the stadium, which makes it hard for Uber drivers like myself to get around. So that's just Jacksonville for you. I don't know about other cities, but other than that, it's not hard to get around in Jacksonville. So anyway, I'm going to step off, and I'll be back after the game to talk with fans to see how they feel about the Jaguars' final home game of 2024. So until then, it's Sports for Real. I'm out.